Okay, so we're going to do Unit 5, Day 2 today over conditional statements, their converses, their inverses, and their contrapositives. And then we're going to turn around once we write those statements and see if the statement is true or false. Okay, so a conditional statement, speaking of true or false, a conditional statement has a truth value of either true or false. So let's consider this conditional statement. If I get paid, then I will take you to the movie. This statement can only be false when the hypothesis is true and the conclusion is false. So chances are I'm going to get paid. That's going to be true. Then I will take you to the movie. Well, that could be false because I could not take you. So I could not take you. Making this false. To prove a conditional statement is false, you need to find only one counterexample. As soon as you find one example, the whole statement's false. So think of this as like, you're trying, although I don't recommend this, think of this as like you're arguing with your parents. They say you did something and you're saying, no, I didn't. Look, I didn't do it. See, blah, 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 blah. Or they're saying that you didn't do something. You didn't clean your room. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Look, I cleaned my room. I made my bed today. I cleaned my room. You just tried to find one thing to prove them wrong. That's a counterexample. So determine if each conditional is true. If it's false, give a counterexample. If an angle is obtuse, then it has a measure of 100 degrees. So the way you read this is if an angle is obtuse, it has to measure 100 degrees. No, that's going to be false. And then you would just say an obtuse angle could also be, if you really wanted to kind of go low, like take a low cut at someone, an obtuse angle could also be 101 degrees. Ha, you're wrong. That's the counterexample. Okay, negation. The negation of a statement P is not P. And the way we write this is what it's called a tilde, like a curly line. It's written with the tilde and then P. That stands for not P. Now, negation is just saying no. So our example would be M is the midpoint of AB. The negation of that would be saying M is not the midpoint of segment AB. That's all negation is. You just say, excuse me, you're just saying no. So let's talk about the different types of conditional statements that we're going to have. The first one is your classic one that we learned about yesterday. A conditional statement is a statement that can be written in the form if P, then Q. So in the symbols, we would say if P, then Q. The converse is the statement formed by exchanging the hypothesis and the conclusion. So we're flipping these. We're going to say if Q, then P. That's the converse. If Q, then P. So think of this as like we just flip. The inverse is the statement formed by negating the hypothesis and the conclusion. So you keep them in the original order, but then you say no to it. If not P, then not Q. So if not P, then not Q. So this one has the nots in it. And then the last type we're going to talk about is the contrapositive. This is formed by both exchanging, like we did on converse, and negating, like we did on inverse, the hypothesis and the conclusion. So we are flipping these and we're negating. If not Q, then not P. I'm going to write that down here. If not Q, then not P. This one has a flip. And it's got the knots in it. Flip and knots. That's the one that's kind of extra. In a sense that you have to do the most to it. Okay. So now let's look at a couple of examples. When we do these, the first thing I want you to do is identify your hypothesis and your conclusion. That's the very first thing we need to do. So for this example, we have to write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of this statement. Then we have to go through and find the truth value of each. So the first one, it says, if the measure of angle A is 95 degrees, then angle A is obtuse. So find your P and find your Q. Well, the P, the hypothesis, is what follows the if. So measure of angle A equals 95 degrees. That's our hypothesis. The conclusion usually follows the word then, but not all the time. In this case, it does. Angle A is obtuse. That's our conclusion. So now for the converse, what do we need to do? We need to flip them. If Q, then P. So if angle A is obtuse, then, and then we put the P, the measure of angle A equals 95 degrees. Now notice, for my hypothesis and conclusion, I do not include the words if and then. Like when I write it, think of if and then as like a template. I mean, you need it to write the sentence, but when you identify the pieces, you don't include those words. If on the test, if it asks you to name the hypothesis, do not include if in your hypothesis. It will be wrong. It's only what comes after the if. Anyways, inverse. Inverse is the one with the nots. So if not P, then not Q. So if the measure of angle A is not equal to, that's an equal to with a slash through it, is not equal to 95 degrees, then angle A is not obtuse. Then we have the contrapositive. That's where you have to do the nots and you flip it. So if not Q, then not P. So if not Q, if angle A is not obtuse, then the measure of angle A is not equal to 95 degrees. Okay, so there's, well, now we have to find the truth value. So let's go through each of these and see if they're true or false. If angle A is obtuse, then it has to equal 95 degrees. No, this is false. Now we could give a counterexample, but we don't have to. We'll just kind of say it verbally. It doesn't have to be 95. It could be 94. It could be 96. It just has to be between 90 and 180. The inverse, if it's not 95, then it's not obtuse. No, we just said it can be anything between 90 and 180. So this would be false. It doesn't have to be 95. 95 ain't that special. Contrapositive. If it's not obtuse, then it can't be 95. That would be true. This one is true. If angle A is not obtuse, then the measure of angle A can't be 95. Because 95 is an obtuse angle. So that has to be true. If it's not obtuse, it can't be 95. Okay, next one. If a segment is named segment AB, then it is also named segment BA. Let's identify our hypothesis and our conclusion, our P and our Q. So the P comes after the word if. So a segment is named segment AB. That's our P. Then it is also named segment BA. It is also named BA. That's our Q. Okay, so for Converse, what do we need? What order do we need to put these in? We need if Q, then P. We need to flip them. So if a segment is named BA, then it is also named AB. Now, that's the grammatically correct converse. And you're like, but how? How is that the converse? You wrote the same thing. Watch, what did I do? I switched these two. The others are just really, it's part of the P and the Q, but the others are grammatical. So yes, I did switch the order here. I did do Q first and then P. P is talking about AB. Q is talking about BA. So grammatically, this would be the correct way to do it. Okay, so now, inverse. That's going to be not P, then not Q. So if a segment is not named segment AB, then it is also not named segment BA. Again, yes, I did do not P, not Q. Is not AB, not BA, not P, not Q. Okay, and then we have the contrapositive. That's if not Q, then not P. So now I want the BA to come first. If a segment is not named BA, then it is also not named SAB. So again, I got my not BA, which is your not Q, and then not AB, which is your not P. So we just have to keep it grammatically correct. Okay, now let's go through the truth value for each of these. For the first one, if a segment is named BA, then it's also named AB. That's absolutely true. If you can name it BA, then you can also name it AB. So this is absolutely true. If a segment is not named AB, then it's also not named BA. That would be true. I mean, if you cannot call a segment AB, then you can't do BA. It's or else AB would work, like we said on the Converse. So this is true. If a segment is not named BA, then it's also not named AB. That one's true for the same reason as above. So all of these are true for this one. Okay, so that's the notes for day 2. So stay tuned for the guided practice. But before we do that, remember, you are awesome and you are created to do wonderful things. Always believe.